So the question here is, did a UFO crash between Nottingham and Mansfield in the November of 1987? So let's give a bit of a background story to why I was interested in this and how I came across this story first of all. So in 2007 I was working with the Paranormal Network, and we were looking at reports from across the county. So I took it by myself to do some digging into some archives. The Nottingham City Library, for instance, and indeed your various city libraries as well, you'll find what's called local studies reports, local study libraries. With this particular case, I was at the Hucknall Library, and they have a dedicated box there of strange reports, which I find is quite refreshing. Someone's already done half my work for me. And in those archives, in fact, was a report of a UFO crash. Or rather, no, that was incorrect. So it was a story, it was a newspaper story of Dominic Belgin of the East Midlands UFO Research Association. He had had a public talk and a discussion about the UFO crash in 1997 in Basford, and there was an active UFO investigation group there. In fact, Mr. Belgin quoted an Ashfield district councillor, although his name was not mentioned, but the quote is, "God only knows, no one was killed, it was like the Blitz." So something indeed happened. Professionals saw this, and of course this is why it came to me. It's like I found this story, I was quite intrigued about it, so I decided to learn a little bit more. Call it a stroke of luck. I happened to be good friends with a person who was a National Express bus driver, and he happened to indeed be working on this very day, and managed to give me a first-hand account of his experiences. So the alleged crash took place on the date of November the 12th, 1987. Whilst most people were asleep in their bed, the silence of the night was shattered in the early hours after a thunderball tore through homes in Kirkby and Ashfield. Freak weather was blamed at the time, but since the event, multiple witnesses have indeed come forward. Suddenly something highly sensitive and inexplicable happened that night. The windows of 13 houses were blown out completely, as well as chimney stacks that fell from roofs, and severe damage to buildings due to an airborne collision were reported. So first-hand reports, this is my account here, of military activity that happened in the area of the A60. This is an area known as Thieves of Wood. It was closed off, there was the implementation of armed guards, there was a systematic questioning of locals, and people were stopped in their cars by the roadblock near Annesley, and were told they could go no further as a helicopter had come down in the local woods. Now other witnesses had snippets of information of an object of bright light that was trying to avoid built-up areas and was veering south towards the Hucknall airfield. Now the regular bus driver of the route at the time recalls the time very well, and that's obviously his report of what he told me. So then the next step, of course, is 10 years later. It's 1997, and Dominic Belgin, of course, is giving his chat at the East Midlands UFO Research Association public talk, and they quoted that Ashfield councillor with that quote, as I mentioned earlier, is "God only knows, no one was killed, it was like the Blitz." Witnesses at the time said the ball of light didn't travel in a straight line. This thing very important. Witnesses that claimed to have seen it dive up and down distinctly over the hills and the lay of the land, and that Thieves of Wood has a number of tales of its own. So this really puts it into a rather interesting place, in fact, because Thieves Wood has a number of ghost reports, apparitions, strange sensations. So one can imagine the list of things that are going on there, and this is only added to the local law. So this information again was lifted from the Hucknall Dispatch, as well as that's held at the Hucknall Library and Local Studies Library, from A. Smith, and also from the East Midlands UFO RA. Now let's just add a little bit more to that, because I did some research online just to looking at where the story was. I was trying to find my own story that I posted about this, and I found a news story that was posted in the Evening Post in the August the 5th, 2010. Now on this story here, it mentions the UFO archives obviously becoming publicly accessible, but also it actually mentions this case, and I didn't know about this until literally I was about to create this video, because I was trying to find my own story online because it wasn't posted where I thought it was. But no, yes, I slightly digress. So and the story here mentions, as you can see on screen now, over the years in Notts, UFO sightings have included bright lights, hovering lights, the celebrated 1987 incident in which several people claim to have seen a UFO object larger than a football pitch, and more recently several reports of flying objects that sound suspiciously like trendy Chinese lanterns The newly released files shed no light on that, however they do reveal a high degree of interest in the 1987 incident. In terms of Knott's revelations, the files highlight the persistent efforts and meticulous notes of another person or organisation trying to find out what happened in the south of Mansfield in the early hours of November the 12th, 1987. Now, I'm not going to go down the story because I have to say, if you read this, and I'll post a link to this story, it's not very clear who's saying what to where and who is saying what about what here, so I'm not going to go into that too far. But what I will suggest here, it looks like a conversation regarding the case was put into UFO Reality magazine back in the day, and then multiple people are trying to solve it, really, and actually get themselves tongue-tied with each other trying to find out who's got more information, and it looks like no one came out of that the better. But nonetheless, it does highlight the fact there is actually been a considerable interest in this story, and since I posted this story onto my blog, which would have been in 2007, I've got numerous requests and numerous telephone calls about it. In fact, in 2012, there's two gentlemen who came to me who said they actually went to the site as investigators the day after and found a debris. However, it appeared to be a slice of cake. And oddly enough, the story that is located, as told in the Evening Post here, in this muddled conversation, is in fact that they had a piece of technology that they had that looked remarkably like a piece of cake. So I wonder if these two were the same people that I spoke to. However, getting advanced alien technology and the piece of cake mixed up, it does kind of take a bit of a stretch of the imagination. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you've enjoyed learning a little bit more about the alleged UFO case that may have happened in 1987 on November the 12th. If you have any comments, questions, queries, or inquiries, just let me know. Send me a message however you wish to, whether it's on Facebook or Twitter or Google+, or even here in the comments below, and by email, the good old way. Thank you for listening. My name is Kristian Lander. Don't forget to give me a like and a subscribe. Thank you very much, Lee.